Hey, good morning, Glenn. How are you?
Hey Robin, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. First day of
Good.
lockdown, but we're still smiling. That's good.
Yes, the old circuit breaker.
Yes, yes. And how's Bendigo today?
It's actually a beautiful, probably 18, 19 degrees today with the
Oh,
sun out. So
it's warmer than
it's,
Melbourne.
yeah. Yeah, it's
Warm.
normally a couple of degrees warmer than Melbourne.
Okay. So for
Mm.
those that are joining us, I'm Robin Vogels from Personnel Relocations and the author of the book Your DIY Move Guide to Australia. I'm joined today by Glenn.Thomas of GT Insurance, and we're just going to discuss some of the important factors that you need to consider when you move to Australia about your insurance and things people often forget. I'm going to share some stories of people that I've moved that haven't had adequate cover. And we're just going to have a good chat. Glenn is one of the best insurance people I know, not only because he knows his stuff, but he comes with a big smile and a sense of humor, which is the best way to get through a day. So, Glenn, thank you for joining us. And
Thanks, Robin. Thanks for those
just,
kind words as well.
oh, you're welcome. They're well earned. So, just for the listeners who aren't in Australia, you're in Bendigo, which is how far out of Melbourne, driving out of Melbourne?
Look, I'd say it's probably about 2 hours outside of
Mm,
Melbourne, taking into consideration traffic.
yeah.
On a quiet night, you can do it a little bit quicker in just over an hour and a half. But yeah, look, it's almost in the centre of Victoria.
And
It's
there's a lot
a
of
good
people that
location.
actually look to moving at Bendigo because, of course, visas, they considered as rural visas for Bendigo, and a lot of health workers and all sorts that you'd have up there. So what have you lived there all your life? I mean, what can you tell us
Yes,
about
I'm
Bendigo?
born. I'm born and bred in Bendigo,
Yeah.
and the last year has been a massive boom with the influx of new people um,
Mm,
moving here, resettling here, mainly from Melbourne, because it is 2 hours drive. There's a train that goes to and from Melbourne.
yeah.
People can work remotely, and they can travel to Melbourne on a train 2 hours each way. So it's, but it's a look. We still call it a nice country town, but I think it's losing that country feel.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, it's a great place to live.
Yeah, it's not sort of yeah, as you say, a little village or anything like that. It is a town and it's got a lot to
No,
offer.
previously you used to be able to get anywhere in Bendigo in about 10 minutes,
Yeah.
whereas whereas nowadays it's about 15 minutes because of the
Oh,
traffic. So anywhere in Bendigo is about 15 minutes away from each other, and but it's good schools, good
yeah,
restaurants. Recently, we're winning some reasonable rewards for restaurants, which is good.
great.
But
And
yeah,
there's,
it's
I
you
always
know,
see great um, exhibitions and things on in Bendigo as well. They seem to have quite a strong arts program.
yeah. There's an art gallery here that is one of the oldest art galleries that just promotes a lot of the. I would assume it's a lot cheaper to run an
Perhaps.
event here than it would be in
Mm,
a Melbourne, for example, and it's quite an easy town to get to for that
yeah,
reason.
yeah, lovely. So let's move on to insurance. Now,
Sure.
I wanted to get you on because it is one of the important things that people need to do as soon as they arrive. And I know you helped me just the other day, or helped some clients of mine that had come in from England, South Africa.
South Africa. Yep.
Yeah. So maybe just talk through what you were able to do with them and explain what your services are and what sort of insurances you cover.
Okay, so I'm an insurance broker in a general insurance broker. So I look after your property cover, your cars, your building, your home and contents, your business insurance, trade insurance, but even professional indemnity.
Okay.
And what we're able to do for your client that has just been relocated, um, you are able to find them a beautiful house, but then to live in that house, they needed contents cover.
Mhm.
So we organised some contents insurance cover for them, and made sure it was the right cover for them, that suited their needs, and also just made life easier for them, give them a lot of more peace of mind.
Yeah.
So I know the ins and outs of a different policy wording, and I explained that to our client.
Mm.
They also needed a car insured, so I was able to talk them through that and talk them through the processes of what they needed to insure. It was it was an easy process, and whilst they were, one of the keys was while they were settling into a new city, we went a little bit more down the better quality of insurance policy and the better quality of insurance wording, to give them that more peace of mind in an area, in a town that they're not familiar with.
Yes.
So we got hire car, for example, with the car insurance. We took out a hire car option, and that was because they may not be aware of the public transport or those things surrounding their home, but now they can go get a hire car. So look, it costs a little bit extra on insurance, but it just gives them a bit more peace of mind and reassurance if the worst occurs.
Yes, exactly. And it is important because in another country, you might not have those options or even think about those options. So it's good that I can actually refer somebody to you who you can say, do you know you can get this in this country or that in this country?
Yes.
And I know a while ago you were talking about a client, I think they lived on a golf estate and their insurance didn't cover for golf balls, and it's not something we'd necessarily think about, but knowing the ins and outs of the policies.
Yeah, that client in particular had a really cheap insurance policy, and they had a hole form in their roof, and water damage came in and damaged the roof. They went to lodge a claim. It was denied by their insurance company because it wasn't. The reason was the hole wasn't caused by the storm, the rain. So we then put them with an insurance company that covers the resultant damage.
Yes.
Yes, their insurance premium is a little bit dearer, but now they've got cover for that type of event.
Yes.
So with insurance, I always believe you get what you pay for, and there's good insurance and there's bad insurance. And I think one of the added advantages of going through a broker is you have a broker who's looking after you as the client.
Yes.
They don't look after the insurance company.
Yes.
So we as brokers prioritize our clients' needs and their wants.
Yes.
And it's not about the cheapest cover; it's about the best option and the most competitive cover.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I can tell you right now, my father used to say for years that they had 20 years insurance and never had to make a claim. And then a drink driver drove through their home and caused substantial damage to the home. And I can tell you right now, you just don't want to have to make a claim if you don't need to. It's a traumatic experience for everyone.
Yes. Yes.
And but if you've got the right insurance in place, hopefully it makes the blow a little bit softer.
Yes. And, going from each country, as I was saying earlier, there's different things. Like when I have somebody coming from France. So in France, for example, the renter is liable for plumbing issues, for example, whereas in Australia, the landlord will be responsible for anything like that. So I do have French clients inquiring about home insurance as opposed to just contents insurance. So it's good to be able to chat to somebody like you. And even with car insurance, the fact that you can get roadside assistance or, whatever it might be, and the other benefits that could come with car insurance. So I think it's good to be able to explain it. And cooling off periods, that's something that's also quite unique. Could you just talk us through the cooling off periods in Australia?
The cooling off periods in Australia have been enforced by government legislation, and every insurance company has a different cooling off period, but there's a minimum requirement that essentially allows a client from up to 14 days.
Okay.
Well, it's 14 days up to 30, depending on the insurance company.
Yeah.
It allows the client to change their mind.
Right.
And essentially not be pushed into buying a product. So a client can take out a policy, they can be in cover, And if they change their mind, they can cancel the cover and not have to pay anything for it.
Okay.
If they make a claim, then they're stuck on the policy. There's no outs. They've connected to the policy, so there's no cooling off period if a claim has occurred.
Yes.
And it's really just for further peace of mind for the client, so they can make an informed decision.
Yeah.
I've never had a client retract on a cooling off period, because hopefully I give enough information to the clients at the beginning of
they can make
process.
that informed decision. Yeah.
I would prefer a client make a decision up front, or knowing everything up front, than finding out after the fact. But that's essentially what a cooling off period is for.
Okay.
Just to give the client peace of mind.
And I think something else that's really important is how quickly people can get policies in place here in Australia, and how quickly they should get these policies in place. And I was telling you a story about a client of mine, and so many people don't realize it and don't read the fine print in their removals quotes and terms and conditions. But things like jewelry are not covered under shipping, especially if you're wearing the jewelry, but they are not covered under any shipping insurance. And no. We had a client whose jewelry went missing, unfortunately, within a few days of her arriving, and was not insured. So, it needs to be done quickly.
Yeah, look, it's just, and again, it's just one of those things you have to be aware of, and you probably, it's a great idea that you're mentioning it now to your potential clients, because it just gives them something to think about. And whilst you may not be able to get cover for those items, at least you're aware of it up front. That's what I like to. That's what I've liked. What you've done there is push that. But as far as taking out a policy, I subject to workloads, of course, but I can generally turn a simple policy around in 2 to 3 hours. With that, I probably check about 10 to 15 different insurance companies, different options.
Yeah.
Provide those options to the client, and that's probably a 5 to 10 minute phone call or a 5 to 10 minute email to get to that stage. The client says yes. That's pretty much the hardest part done.
Okay. So and those policies are instated quite quickly, aren't they?
They can be instated. Yeah, they can put in place immediately, essentially. And look, there are some insurance companies that deal direct with the public. You can give them a call. Some might take 15 minutes, some might take half an hour, some might take an hour on the phone. I'm very mindful of that, and time is very important to people nowadays. So I try not to occupy too much of their time. I try to make the process easy for them.
Yeah.
But also, I don't have. I live in Australia. I work in Australia, and there are some call centres that aren't. And that makes it hard for people that are dealing with dealing with an Australian product that's new to them as well.
Exactly. And I think, what makes your service different is, it is a case of you taking the best interests of the client and adapting to what they need. It's not a one box fits all. He has a call center who asks this question and gives that option and this question. You are actually a real person evaluating real people's needs. And I think that's very important.
Correct. At the end of the day, we all provide, they call it general advice. But for me to have an understanding of what I need to provide to the client, I need to get to the bottom of what they're after.
Exactly.
So that helps. Whereas an insurance, a direct insurance company is very scripted, and they ask the questions, they tick the boxes, and
yes,
so on.
And they've got the hidden fine print, or not hidden, but they've got the fine print that catches them. Yeah.
Also, you're probably dealing with people that just know how to read the computer screen. So if they happen to ask a question, am I covered for this, or is this an option? The person probably has no idea. They might have to go refer to their manager, and whereas at least going through someone like myself, generally know the answer. Pretty quickly for them. So
exactly. So what would be some top tips you could share with my clients?
Okay. This was this question I wasn't prepared for, so thanks for that. I think the important thing is just to think of your own personal circumstances.
Yeah.
And that might be from overseas. It might be what you think of here in Australia. And ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Those questions don't have to be over the phone. They don't have to be over Zoom. They can be on an email and can be answered at a time that's suitable for everyone.
Yes.
So ask questions. Make sure your sums insured are adequate is another key. So remember, you're dealing with Australia sums insured. You're dealing with Australia replacement. So you've got to be mindful. And I also say to people, don't be afraid to insure for a little bit more. There's a thing called inflation. There's a thing called you buy more things for your home than what you did. So don't just set and forget. Don't insure for, say, $30,000 and then for the next 5 years have $30,000 worth of cover.
And I think that's an important point. Yeah, I think that's a really important point, because a lot of our clients would have done an inventory of their personal effects for the removalists. They might have costed those in British pounds or euro, whatever it might be, but the replacement value here in Australia might not be. You can't just take the currency conversion and convert it. You've actually got to do some homework and work out what it would cost here in Australia for that item.
And it's a new for old. It's new for old. So you might have a 10-year-old couch that you bought over, but at the end of the day, you have to get a new couch.
Yeah, exactly.
Be aware of the restrictions in the policies. Well, whilst you have me as a broker, that I have a general understanding of the in policy, I don't know specifically what you've got. So if you've got a jewelry item that is limited by some policies, talk about it, ask the question about it.
Yeah.
And if you want the level of cover that the appropriate level of cover, you may have to pay for it.
Yes. Yes.
I'm also a bit of a believer. I believe in insurance. I believe there's a good place for it. And I think moving to a new country, moving to a new town, moving to everything, you make it easier, Robin, for what everyone has to do. But there is a point down the track where something might happen to a client. It might cost a little bit extra, but make life easier for yourself.
Yes.
And like I said, for this other couple, get hire car for the first year or 2 years, just while you're getting into the swing of things. Or we also got him windscreen cover. So
that's important here. Yeah.
Yeah, if a rock flicks up and hits a windscreen, makes your car no longer roadworthy. You can get fined for that. You can. It's very important to have your car roadworthy here in Australia.
Yeah.
And you can get cover for that. The other bonus cover we got for this client was a replacement value policy. Right. So because he was buying a brand new vehicle, essentially we can we've got him a policy that if the vehicle was involved in a total loss in the first 3 years, so up to 2024, he gets a brand new replacement vehicle.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he doesn't have to worry about the cost. He doesn't have to worry about depreciation. He doesn't have to worry about any of that, because at the end of the day, he's just going to be given a brand new vehicle.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and every policy wording differs. Some policies allow up to 12 months. Some policies allow up to 3 years.
Right.
But he agreed to pay a little bit extra for that more peace of mind.
Perfect. Glenn, thanks so much for all your insight today. That's been brilliant.
No worries.
And I'm sure everybody will appreciate all that information and the importance of reading the fine print, the importance of getting insurance early.
My pleasure. And it shows I'm a real person as well. So
exactly.
That's an added bonus in today's society.
Exactly. So thanks, everybody. And you can contact myself or Glenn directly. We will have all his information at the end of this video. But you can also, he's part of our concierge service at Personnel Relocations. So we can do an introduction to Glenn from Personnel Relocations, if that helps. Glenn, thanks again. And I hope you have a good, warm lockdown in Bendigo, sorry.
Bendigo. Close.
Close. All righty. Have a good day. Thanks for
Robin.
your time.
Thank you.
Okay. See
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.